First. Okay, I don't know what day it is. It's Wednesday before the council meeting. We'll call July 10th. We'll call to order the City of Brainerd Personnel and Finance Committee meeting and start with introductions.
Sarah Terry, Ward 1.
Alderman at Large Kevin Stunek.
Connie Hillman, City Finance Director.
James Kronvik, Community Development Director.
Chris Schubert, HR Director.
Nick Broyle, City Administrator.
And Gabe Johnson, Chair of the committee. We have 3 quick items before us today, the first of which is discuss the Minnesota State Delegation Agreement. Chris. James.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. So Brainerd's Buildings official Darren Deseth submitted a state delegation agreement application to the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry as he recently completed the tutorial requirements for the state's delegation agreement. Dolly informed the city that Mr. Deseth did not meet the minimum requirements for the delegation review of inspections with the Minnesota State Building Code on schools, hospitals, nursing homes, college dormitories, correctional facilities, or other buildings having elements of at least 5 of the following components. As of right now, he has inspected 1 property within the city limits of Brainerd that would count towards that. So the state of Minnesota would issue him, it's called a reserve delegation. So a reserve delegation would allow Darren to work towards a state delegation. In order to do that, he would have to job shadow somebody actually from the state rather than somebody that we have privately contracted. Right now we have Scott Sadusky privately contracted for our state delegation. So he would have to job shadow actually somebody from Dolly that would do the inspections. The reserve delegation would allow the city of Brainerd to collect 100% of the building permit fees for the inspections that Darren's able to do. That's on the second page here. So roof covering replacement that does not add a roof load, windows, doors, some other kind of smaller things. We certainly have had permits with that. The state hospital does quite a bit of updating out on Highway 18 there. This would not qualify for Country Manor, which would be potentially coming up here as a state project. So right now our contract with Scott Sadusky, the building permit fee that's collected by the city of Brainerd, 75% of that goes to Scott. It'd be the plan review fee. We get a cursory review, which is 25% of the normal fee. 75% of that goes to Scott Sadusky. So we would lose some revenue from potentially Country Manor there, but then also gain revenue in other projects. Did want to note that Darren does have a state delegation for plumbing. So that's something the city hadn't had for quite some time until he was here, which has been very helpful. So whenever there's a state project or Country Manor, he is still able to do the plumbing section on that part of it. So this would be more for mechanical and building. So with that, I can answer any questions, but our recommendation would be to provide that extra training for Darren to be able to work towards that full state delegation, which would be to terminate Scott Sadusky's building inspection delegation contract with a 45-day written notice. The notice shall indicate that Scott Sadusky shall no longer issue permits, but shall be permitted to conduct the remaining inspections on permits previously issued. Apply for the reserve delegation agreement with Dolly and allow Mr. Deseth to contact Dolly to participate in inspections within 90 miles of Brainerd that would qualify for the delegation agreement experience.
I'd make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Can he, Mr. Deseth, get the delegation certification, whatever it's called?
So in order to get it, he's met the, there's one potential other training exercise that they mentioned. He did take the last test for, I think it had to do with fire egress, fire suppression. He did pass those, and that's what we thought was kind of the last step for this. He spoke with the person from the Department of Labor and Industry, and they really want to work towards having communities have building officials that have state delegations. So that's really the goal of them as well, is for Darren to be able to job shadow them to have that. So that's really the goal of Dolly, is to be able for him to shadow and create those and be able to do those final inspections that he needs for some of these larger projects.
So once he completes the job shadowing, he will have that
Yeah, once he completes the requirements, I think there's 5 of them that he needs from different categories. He has 1 right now. Country Manor would be another one. Darren's able to do the inspections for the downtown project. That's not a state project. So state projects include, we had all the schools that had happened here. We have the college, we have hospitals, so those are typically things that the state would then do. With exceptions to plumbing, he's able to issue plumbing permits and do the inspections for those. But we don't have, as many projects as, say, St. Cloud or Minneapolis would have, so it's maybe a little slower process than what you'd have in those areas. That's why we wanted to provide an option. Depending on the project size and, how much driving he'd have to do, does it make sense for him to, maybe go to a different community, whether it's, even a Staples or Motley to do a hospital or something like that, to provide that option to get that additional training to maybe get this along a little bit faster. But, it's preliminary, they said maybe about an 18-month process to go through this.
Thank you.
He answered my question.
Perfect. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up is an update on the Public Utility Director hiring process. Chris?
So we start interviews at 11:30 today. We wanted to have a placeholder on the council agenda, so if there is any action that is needed, maybe Councilmember Terry could help us with that since she is on the work group in the interview panel.
Good. Item number 3 is consider authorization to pay off the BPU advancement.
Correct. So in May of 2023, we borrowed $1.5 million, $1 million from the public utilities and $500,000 from the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust Fund for extraordinary expenses. The thought is that both of the whole 1.5 would be recognized as other financing sources, and we would help us get closer to our fund balance policy that took a hit. Well, with the change of the reporting entity with BPU, the BPU loan needed to report as an advancement from other funds and as a balance sheet only adjustment, so it didn't affect our income statement, so it doesn't affect our fund balance policy that we have either. The loan is scheduled to be paid off in December of 2028. However, we're recommending to pay off the loan now, and we would save about $62,000 in interest cost, and the repayment will occur by investments maturing in 2024 and the $125 levied in 2024 for repayment.
I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Is this going to affect our levy or debt levy or anything?
It will reduce it because we won't need to levy for either the League of Minnesota Cities or the BPU.
Right, so that 125,000.
Well, it's
Debt levy.
$250 for both, but I'm assuming with the project of South Brainerd that we're gonna need to bond for, that'll be rolled into that, plus we'll need a little more.
Okay.
Perfect.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Anything else to come before the committee?
Our next meeting will be July 31st at 11 o'clock.
Can we get the clock fixed and the calendar on it?
We will hope so.
right,
RT was
let's
working on it
try.
before the meeting, so.
Okay. With that, we're adjourned.
What?